Hi, I'm Vlad from Elderslie Plumbing, and today we're going to speak briefly on the subject of grey water. Now, what grey water is basically all of your wastewater used in your daily workings of your house, except for the toilet and the kitchen wastewater. Now, with grey water, this has become, with a lot of my customers and a lot of people, especially with the latest water restrictions, have become more interested in capturing this water before it gets put into a sewer system, and it's a wise thing to do. Now, there are, I guess, three levels of how grey water can be captured. The simplest being at no expenses. I have plenty of customers who shower in a large bucket type basin, and then after the shower they'll take that bucket out and they can topically apply that to anywhere in the garden, and that's perfectly legal to do that, and it's pretty uncomplicated. The second one is called grey water diversion. Now, what that is, it's something that's probably a lot easier to install on a house that's on bearers and joists. In other words, a house that has underfloor access, and that way the plumber can put a junction into where the grey water is captured, say from your hand basins, showers, baths, especially if you have young children. That's a heap of water every day, and that goes to a diversion system that has a very small holding tank, so there are no large tanks on your property, and that pumps it out as it receives the water. And the best way to apply water into a garden is with subsoil irrigation. It sort of looks like a garden hose with a little dripper every foot or so that regulates a certain amount of litres per hour, and that ranges from 2 up to 7 litres or even more per hour, each dripper hose. Now, once that's laid out into your garden and that gets buried at least 100 millimetres lower than your surface of your garden, what that does is that stays away from the excessive heat that you would get in your topsoil, and it really puts the water where it needs to be, and it also promotes root growth downward, and that's a good thing because that really helps the trees not to wilt when a stint of hot days comes along. Now, the third one is called a grey water treatment system. Now, what that is, that's a much more complicated system and obviously a much more expensive system, but that captures the grey water in a capturing tank. Then it's pumped from that tank to a treatment tank, and that is treated in 3 stages. I'll go into more detail of that on another video. And then it pumps that water out to a holding tank, and if the plumbing in the house is designed in such a way to be able to have separate recycled lines to things like washing machines and toilets, you can then use that water again in your house before you send it off. Okay, so they're the 3 that we have. Look, there are pros and cons to all of the 3 systems that I described. The first one being that it's awfully cheap. It doesn't cost much to go to a hardware store, get a big bucket and stand in it while you're having a shower. Obviously it's labour intensive, but if you're not scared about that and you probably want to spend less time at the gym, I guess you can do that. The second, with the water diversion, look, it tends to be my personal favourite, probably because of cost as opposed to a water treatment system. The water diverters do come in 2 forms. One of them has to be cleaned periodically, depending on what sort of soaps and whatnot you use. The filters need to be cleaned every 3 or 6 months. There is an option for a sort of a better model of the same brand that self-cleans every 10 tanks of water that it processes. For some people that would be worth spending the extra money. The third, the water treatment system, like I said, this is probably something more suited to people pre-build, something they would consider and have installed at time of building a house. Far more expensive, well in excess of $10,000 to install, or to purchase rather, and then installation on top of that. Look, in my recent study of grey water and trying to get more and more information, I found some pretty cluey people, ones from overseas, ones where water is even more scarce than it is here in Australia in the current environment. And you know, I'm learning more each day. I'm certainly no expert on the subject, but if you have any questions and you'd like to quiz me, feel free. My number is on my website, and you can give me a call.